my golden sister. Tried to drag me through the mud. Now the whole family knows about her double life. Hey, I'm Mark, 27 years old, and if there were an actual career for living in the endless shadow of your older sister, I'd be on the Forbes list by now. Meet Jenna, my golden sister, 30, who's always been the family's shining star, while I've been the dusty pebble at her feet. Mom's face would light up whenever Jenna walked in, as if she'd discovered a new planet or cured a disease. Dad? He practically worshipped her. If he had a poetic bone in his body, I swear he'd have a collection of poems dedicated to his precious Jenna by now. And me? I was more like a backup character, acknowledged just enough so that ignoring me would have seemed rude. But the irony is that picture-perfect image everyone sees. It's all a carefully curated act. Behind that angelic smile, Jenna's hiding some of the coldest, most self-centered motives you could imagine. She's a master manipulator, able to craft a poor, misunderstood saint persona so flawlessly that I'm convinced she could teach a class on it. If there were Olympic medals for manipulation, she'd bring home gold every time. Naturally, our parents are completely convinced. To them, she's the sweetest, most caring soul to ever grace this earth. If only they knew the real Jenna, the one who uses everyone around her, me included, as tools to prop up her own reputation. Growing up with her felt like being in a constant survival mode. Take my high school graduation, for example. This was supposed to be a moment of celebration, right? But no, Miss Perfect couldn't let that happen. Just before I went up to give my speech, she accidentally started spreading rumors that I'd rigged the awards to make myself look good. Classic Jenna move. Every stunt she pulled was crafted to paint me as a total loser, while she, of course, was the misunderstood saint who had to put up with her troublesome little brother. But what really crossed the line happened at the last family dinner. Jenna, with her signature concerned smile, casually mentioned how I had to step back from a major work project because, according to her, I didn't handle it well. The family looked at me with a mixture of pity and disappointment, all because of her little show. And in that moment I thought, seriously? You're so desperate for attention that you'd tear down your own brother just to prop yourself up? That's when I decided it was time to put an end to this charade. Enough was enough. She might have spent years building a flawless reputation, but it was built on lies and manipulation. And I was done standing in her shadow, letting her call the shots. The family needed to see the real Jenna, the one hiding behind the polished mask, and I was ready to tear it off, no matter what it took. This time she wouldn't walk away with the gold. The night was supposed to be just another family dinner, a routine get-together. But as usual, it quickly became the Jenna show. She sauntered in, glowing with that irritating, self-assured smile that seemed to say, "You're welcome, world." As we gathered around the table, she slipped seamlessly into the spotlight, recounting her groundbreaking achievements at work, peppered with humble brags that weren't so humble. The family watched her with that same familiar admiration, like she was the crown jewel of our family, and I was just the odd piece in the back of the display case, collecting dust. Then, of course, came her favorite part, taking subtle jabs at me. With her sweet-as-sugar smile, she dropped a so-called joke about my latest project at work, something I'd actually been proud of. "Oh, Mark here?" she said, barely able to contain her smirk. "He could use a little advice on handling success? Maybe take a page out of my book?" She gave a mocking little laugh, crossing her legs and leaning back with a satisfied grin. "You know, Mark, you might want to pay attention. Real success doesn't happen by accident," she added, like she was sharing the secret to life itself with the family's lost cause. And what did my parents do? They just sat there, soaking it all in. Mom's eyes shone with pride at Jenna's words, as if she'd just unlocked the mysteries of the universe, and Dad chuckled along, oblivious to the sharp edge beneath her jokes. Meanwhile, I sat there, clenching my jaw, barely keeping myself together as I forced a neutral expression. Inside, though, I was seething. It was infuriating to watch them all fall for her act, not realizing that the real Jenna was nothing like the image she projected. She was all charm on the outside, but I knew the truth. behind that polished exterior, she was hollow. As dinner ended and everyone started saying their goodbyes, something in me snapped. I couldn't let her get away with it anymore. I walked over to her, my voice calm but low, and said, "Keep playing this game, Jenna, and eventually, people are going to see what you really are." She looked at me like I'd just told her the sky was green, then laughed, tossing her hair back with that infuriating confidence. "Oh, Mark, come on," she said, rolling her eyes. "Everyone knows I'm perfect. You're just jealous." That was it for her. She thought I'd walk away, defeated like always. But this time she was wrong. This time, I'd had enough. If she wanted a show, I'd give her one. But it would be her true self, exposed for all to see. And when the curtain finally fell, I wasn't the one who'd be standing in the shadows. For the next few weeks, I lived with one thought. If Jenna wants to play dirty, I'll play dirtier. I became her shadow detective, spending hours scrolling through her profiles, digging into her old posts and comments like it was a detective series, where every detail could be a clue. Jenna was so convinced of her perfect image that she never suspected anyone would dig into her life. Otherwise, she'd have cleaned up long ago. Her mistake. Then, one day, out of nowhere, I stumbled onto something big. Turns out, my perfect sister had a double life. In one of her messages, I found out she'd gotten herself into shady deals with some sketchy partners. She'd poured money into high-risk ventures, clearly hoping to make a fortune off something semi-legal, then somehow escape unscathed. But her plan was clearly one of those doomed from the start. She'd already racked up serious debts, and it looked like her perfect reputation would be as lost as her investments once I revealed everything. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. The more I dug, the more skeletons I found. I thought I'd unearthed all her secrets, but her closet was overflowing. One day, I happened upon a bank document in her room, the kind you'd think anyone would destroy instantly to stay out of trouble. It was a record of a hefty loan taken out in our parents' name. She must have assumed she'd get away with it, pay off the debts, and no one would ever suspect a thing. That's what she called perfect. I copied those documents, photographed every line, every figure, and also saved her texts with collectors. They weren't exactly friendly. All I had to do now was sit back and watch her world crumble once the truth came out. It was another typical evening, supposed to be anyway. Family dinner, Jenna in the spotlight, parents beaming with pride, and me quietly nodding along. But tonight would be different. I'd prepared my jackpot, ready to detonate it right in the middle of the family gathering. I sat across from Jenna as she sat there, regal as ever, nodding with that queenly air she loved. This time, I played her game. Just a little smile as I laid a stack of documents in front of her. "So, sis, care to tell us about the bank loan in Mom and Dad's name?" I asked, smiling the same innocent smile that always got under her skin. Her face turned so pale I thought she'd fall off her chair. She tried to play dumb, her usual, "I have no idea what you're talking about." But this time, there was no way out. I heard the sound of, "Yes, this is it, payback time," in my head, and I started talking. Loudly, calmly, with the same tone she always used against me. "Everyone, it turns out our perfect Jenna isn't as perfect as we thought. Here, take a look. Debts, loans, everything hidden behind that sweet smile and those successes." My parents just sat there, staring like they'd seen a ghost. Mom, her usual advocate, clutched the table, looking at Jenna as if finally seeing a hidden truth. Dad, usually calm and indulgent, froze, realizing his perfect daughter was nothing but a facade, now collapsing right in front of him. Jenna tried to stammer, to excuse herself, and then resorted to tears, as if that would somehow get her off the hook. But everyone was spellbound, watching her image shatter. No one believed her excuses anymore. She was alone on that stage, and instead of applause, she got pure disappointment. When it was over, I looked her in the eyes and said, "You spent your whole life trying to drag me down. Now the whole family sees your true face. I hope you remember that." And with that, the dinner ended. Jenna left, defeated and humiliated, without a word. For the first time, My parents turned to me, no longer trusting her blindly. I wasn't just a background character anymore. I was the one who'd finally set things straight. Jenna was left alone, her support crumbled, and maybe, for the first time in her life, she realized her perfect image wouldn't save her from the consequences.